I feel like I have maybe a bit of a delay here, but I think we'll get started so we can have the most of our time together tonight. So um, maybe I will just pin myself, spotlight myself. Okay. Welcome everybody. It's really good to see you all. My name is Brenna Baker. My pronouns are she, her, and I am one of the facilitators, the leaders of the Church Tech Best Practices Network. Um, this network has many functions, I would say. We have um, webinars like this, opportunities for us to talk about the intersection of technology and ministry. We have a discussion board where folks will ask questions and share wisdom with each other. We have a whole bunch of resources posted. Um, we are trying to do a blend of educational opportunities, some that are community building for inside the network, I'd want to say. Some that are for the network, which would be next week's event, which I'll talk about in a second. And then some things like this that we are using as a way of reaching out beyond the network to those who might be a little bit unsure about joining the network on ChurchX. Unsure if that's a good fit for you, but we still want to make sure that you have great information that you can use about technology and your ministry. So, next week, before I introduce tonight, I'll just mention next week is our last event for this year. On Tuesday, we are going to have Michelle Pettick, who's the communications guru for our three Southwest Ontario regions. Just do kind of a very quick I guess graphic design 101 is kind of what we're calling it. So if you're making that social media post for your Christmas Eve service, what are you thinking about, right? Like, what are you putting out there? What do you want it to look like? What would you want to include? And she's gonna walk us through in real time what she would include in that. So you won't want to miss that. That's Tuesday night, like a week from tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern time. The catch is that one is through the Zoom link in the network. So we're using that as a little carrot to go and join the network. If you really don't want to, but want to be a part of that, let me know. And then all of those recordings for the learning opportunities are posted on the network as well. So you can see the whole kind of back catalog of about a year, yeah, about a year that we've been doing this year and a little bit. So please do check that out. And tonight I want to introduce Reverend Jim Keat, who is joining us from Michigan, geographically, we just learned. And when we created this network, Jim was like who I had in mind as a speaker right from the get-go.
Mm.
So Jim's ministry and work has really inspired me in terms of the importance of this digital space for evangelism, hospitality, um, helping people to experience the love of God. And I will say so just to model how this can work, Jim is a minister at Riverside Church in New York City, but lives in Michigan, right? So just to say these things are possible. Riverside has a really long history, if you don't know it, of doing kind of dynamic, I would say cutting edge things. I think, Jim, I was just watching the Bob Dylan movie, A Complete Unknown. I think Riverside is featured in that
Yeah, he
movie.
did a concert there at one point. I've seen footage of that before too.
Yeah. So, like, that's Riverside, right? They're cool. They do cool things. And Jim has been an educator about this even before COVID. He works with the Converge network. Is my language right?
Yep.
To teach
Convergence. Yep.
courses and
Yep.
yeah. We'll put all these links, I think, in the chat. You have an amazing Substack about all of these topics, and you can find Jim on YouTube to watch more. I encourage you, this is just like a teaser tonight, but follow Jim on all the various platforms. And also I think you're a great resource to connect with other people who are out there kind of doing this kind of thing. So, um, yeah, it's just great. All those follows that you can find from Jim's work. So, um, anything I missed that I really should say?
I have three cats and two kids. Maybe that's a little bonus. And I run
Okay.
marathons. But that's
Yeah,
not really
yeah.
related to the work here.
No, but that's great. That's how you stay embodied, I think, and like is something to say, right? In like a lot
Yeah.
of digital spaces, running after kids. Yeah, I like that you said your cats first, though. So we are gonna give Jim lots of time. I want to say tonight, if you can make use of the Q&A part of things, I think on the bottom on the right, I rarely ever use this feature of Zoom. On the bottom, if you click on more, there's Q&A and you can put a question in there. Oh, now I'm echoing. Okay. Or you can just put it in the chat, but I guess we're encouraging questions in a written way as we go. And then Jim will also pause to give some space if there's questions or discussion along the way. But then if we have all those questions at the end, convergence, there we go. Thanks for the link, Craig. Um, if we have all those questions and they're similar ones, then we can kind of group all of those together. So um, let's just start with a bit of a grounding and land acknowledgement before we begin here. As we gather, I'm acknowledging the space and time that I'm in tonight. I'm here on the traditional territories of Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, Mississaugas of the Credit peoples, land governed by the Dish with One Spoon, Wampum Confederacy. I am thinking in this season, especially of the teachings of our Indigenous siblings around the world, um, related to these long, dark days, the gift of rest, um, the gift of slowing down, of letting the earth recover, the gifts of celebrating light in the midst of darkness, the gifts of having more time to gather with friends and family. Wherever we are this evening, we give thanks for the original caretakers of the land. And as we think tonight about building communities where we are and across digital spaces, we remember the calling to building a community with our Indigenous siblings as well to heal and reconcile what has been broken. Amen. Okay, and Jim, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be here with you. Fun to see new faces, familiar faces. Stefan, good to see you again. It's been a bit since we've hung out together, but glad to get to hang out in this space with you all. Um, I'll dive in a minute with a bit more of how I got to where I am in the work that I do. It'll cover a bit of what was already said about, Riverside and Convergence and Michigan and things. But before we get to that, I want to make sure everyone's fingers work. So we're going to just do it in the Zoom chat. First, I want to know what role you play in whatever context of church you're in. I think you're probably all pastors, but like give me like the specificity, like solo pastor, senior pastor if there's a staff, if you have like a specific role on the team of your focus, just so we can kind of get the lay of who's in the space and what do we do in the day job when we're not hanging out on Zoom in the evening or late afternoon if you're over on the west side of the country. So let's just put some stuff in the chat so we can see how many people have the same title. Mission and outreach. Day job as a researcher. I like that. Board and admin. 10 of us here. Okay, you got the watch party over there. A solo minister. outreach pastor, solo ministry, tech volunteer, board chair, halftime solo minister. All right. It's good, good, good. Keep them coming. I love it. All right. AV coordinator, tech lead, chair of worship and music. Oh, this is great. I love the range that it's people who full-time, part-time. This is just a calling you have in life to give yourself to the service of God and the church, and this is the way it happens. And you're hanging out on Zoom on a Tuesday night to talk about all these online things and digital ministry and cultivating community. Volunteer social media leave and website coordinator. Okay, Wendy, let's all take note. Volunteer social media lead and website coordinator. That's like 2.5 jobs that she volunteers for. That's amazing, Wendy. That's amazing. All of you, amazing. All right, one more question. This one's going to just be a simple 1 to 5. So you're going to pick a number between 1 and 5. How familiar, fluent would you consider yourself in the realm of digital ministry? One meaning I am here because I don't know what I don't even need to know, and 5 meaning I have a PhD. I'm a pro. I got this figured out. So put yourself somewhere between 1 and 5. Where would you say complete novice, expert, bring it on? Got some ones and twos, a 4, all right, a 3 right in the middle, all right, 4, yeah, you can figure it out. Threes, 4's like above, the middle, but not quite the. Oh, wait, Stefan, there we go, 5, I like that. There we go. That doesn't surprise me. -1 to 3. Oh, that's our watch party. Oh, we got to average that out for you. That averages out to a 1, I think. You're good. You're good. We got a 2, a -1. Okay, okay. Whatever the self-identification is, you are obviously not alone. So that takes solidarity in knowing that there are many others who are identifying in the same way as you. And I think after tonight, I hope everyone can bump it up one number, even if you put a 5. So we'll get you to a 6. We'll have a few more things that we'll be doing in the chat as we go. There'll be a few times when we'll pause and we'll see everyone's face and I'll stop sharing. I'm going to share my screen here in a minute. But we're going to start with just a quick overview that I'm going to do of me a bit more. So you have a context of who this guy is that you're listening to tonight beyond even what was shared. So who I am, where I am, what I do, how I got here, what we're talking about. That's the starting ramble for the evening. So, who I am, Reverend Jim Keat, digital minister is the shorthand. The official title is Minister of Digital Worship and Education, because we made it up and we decided most of my work lands in the realm of our worship experiences at Riverside and education, and that's what I do at the Riverside Church in New York City. It's the really tall church over there. I think it's the tallest, or maybe second tallest now, church in North America. John Rockefeller built it about 100 years ago, 95 to be exact. And over there, my role is to focus specifically in our work in digital ministry. I didn't always do that there. I've been at Riverside now for 9 years, or 9 years coming up in February. When I first came on, I was the associate minister of digital strategy and online engagement, another made up sounding title because we made it up. And essentially, it was the idea to have a theologically trained clergy person take seriously the ways in which people encounter one another and the world in these online spaces. And I've just kept scratching that itch ever since, and even prior to Riverside. How I got here has a bit of a journey to it all. I've always been interested in this internet stuff, not always thinking of it as a, ooh, the church should go there. It's just, isn't this part of the world we live in? It's like I'm interested in the new coffee shop down the street. I'm interested in the new online platform. Part of that is just the where I sit in the timeline of the internet. I was born the same day as the first cell phone call, October 13th, 1983. Me and the cell phone both came into existence at the same exact time. We're still not sure which one caused which to happen, but here we both are. So I've just grown up. I'm an elder millennial. I've seen technology grow alongside me. And then I was a conscious, adolescent in the mid 90s when the internet became a thing. I remember AOL chat rooms and, the big CDs you would get and all those things. And I remember my first laptop when I was in college, this giant clunky thing that I'd be like, laugh at now how heavy it is. But I've just seen technology grow as I've grown in the world as well. When I was in seminary, they made me learn Greek and Hebrew, which is a good idea. I taught myself HTML and CSS because I thought those would be necessary languages for the future of the church. I just thought we need to be fluent in the way in which people are engaging one another. And this internet stuff doesn't seem to be a fad. And I was convinced even then, back in, the early 2000s, 2010s, that we couldn't just let the big brands fueled by capitalism decide how the internet was going to be used, though they still seem to be running the show. We're doing our best and we're not giving up yet. So I've just always been dabbling in these digital spaces, playing around, saying, what would it look like if the church took seriously these online spaces for both creating content, cultivating community? What could happen? It's a big, big game in my mind, a big, long bet, and we're going to see where it goes. All of this at Riverside led me to begin that work there about 9 years ago. I'd been doing it at another church in New York City prior to that. And I was living in New York at the time. And then in 2019, my wife finished her grad program. She has a Master of Fine Arts in Creative Nonfiction, and she was ready to leave the city. I was ready for a new adventure, but I wasn't ready to leave Riverside. So we traveled full time for a year in an Airstream. There's a whole YouTube channel documenting some of that you can find if you really know how to find it. And that's when my role at Riverside shifted to digital minister. The summer of 2019, I had a lot of congregants and colleagues in the summer of 2019 saying, "What the hell's a digital minister?" Fast forward 2020, oh, thank God we have a digital minister. So initially, my focus was who are the congregants who are online at Riverside? How can I be intentional about cultivating relationships with them, building community for them, developing content for them? And then suddenly, a year later, everyone was an online congregant. And at Riverside, we've continued to see so much of our congregation, a majority of our Sunday morning worshiping congregation is online every single week. So that's where I am now. I get to play with these things as a local church pastor, although I don't live local to my church. I live, a about 2 hour plane ride away. I go there every 2 or 3 months. I'm heading there in a couple of weeks for a Christmas event in December here. But I am a online congregant. I'm an online clergy person, which lets me empathize with our online congregants as well. So the frustrations they might have, I have them too, and the solutions to get around those problems and to discover the opportunities these online spaces have. That's the water I'm constantly swimming in, which all of that leads us to what we're talking about tonight. So I love that my role is to try stuff out. So a lot of the things I'm going to share with you, and a part of it's going to be literally, here's a lot of the stuff we're trying at Riverside so we can learn together. But that's all leading to tonight's conversation, which is this: cultivating digital community, Sunday morning and all week long. That's today's big conversation. Because I think that's really what, when I say we can't let, big brand capitalism decide what the internet is for, this to me is the alternative. When we're not trying to just sell products, or we're not just in it for views and vanity metrics moving up and to the right, but it's the qualitative work, not just the quantitative work. It's the connections and the relationships and cultivating community. And it's easy to get caught up in how many views and stats do I have. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the essential work is, how are people connecting with people? Like right now, this isn't just me in my basement looking at a camera. This is people talking to people, and the technology is what makes that possible. So to do that, here's what we're going to talk about over the course of the next, 60 plus minutes or so that we got. We have a few things. This is kind of the path I'm taking us on. My thought is that we're going to start up in the air, and then kind of the plane will slowly descend, and things will go from high level to a little more practical. We'll start with just a framing question. I'm going to need your thoughts on that in a second, so just get your mind going. And then we'll talk a bit about a theology of digital ministry and a philosophy of belonging. I really love the two paired together, because that second one, a philosophy of belonging, really moves us into that sense of online community that we are so needing more and more. And then there'll be a bit on community versus content, and then all the digital campfires at Riverside. That metaphor will make sense as we go. This is where we're going. But to get there, we do need to start with, before we get even to this first question, I always like to begin a lot of these conversations about the internet with a video from, I think it's almost, what year is it? 2020, 30 years ago. This is one of the great prophets, I think saints, even we should say, an interview from the mid 90s, just after the internet became a brand new thing. So frame that for you. The internet first kind of emerged as a public entity in 1994. I think this video is 1996. The date will be on screen, I think. Let's just take a quick little gander of this. Oh, let me do a quick check to make sure I'm sharing sound. I always forget if I'm doing that. The worst is when you go to share a video and then you've pushed the wrong buttons. I
This
didn't.
is
Oh,
this
thank.
is so great that you have to double check that soon too for all of us who like work on this every day.
Oh yeah.
You've just richly blessed us, so thank you.
All the time. Embrace the glitches. I'd rather double check now than be like, "Don't you love that video that none of you could hear?" Yeah. So, all right. No more ruining my surprise. Here it is, the patron saint of the internet in my mind, David Bowie.
I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
It's just a tool, though, isn't it?
No, it's not. No. No, it's an alien life form.
What do you think? I mean, when you think then about the
Is there
future
life
of it,
on Mars? Yes, it's just landed here.
but it's simply a different delivery system there. You're arguing about something more profound.
Oh yeah, I'm talking about the actual context and the state of content is going to be so different to anything that we can really envisage at the moment, where the interplay between the user and the provider will be so in simpatico. It's going to crush our ideas of what mediums are all about.
Hi, my name is Nathan.
It's just a different delivery system, isn't it? That's what he said in the interview, and it's obviously so much more than that. I like David Bowie's framing because it helps me realize the perception that so many people had on what this internet was at its onslaught, just a bulletin board, just another mode of communication, but it has obviously turned into so much more than that. So with that framing, this question, let's put you back in the chat. Give your answers to this question. What is digital ministry? What would be your answer to this question? How would you describe, if someone asked you at your church, "Hey, I heard you do digital ministry. What's that?" What is digital ministry? It's real ministry. Oh, Stefan, you know all my answers here. You've seen my videos before. Yes, yes, yes. Two-way communication. Ooh, yeah. Zoom workshop service. All right, all right. The message through the cloud, the great iCloud of witnesses, using the World Wide Web to reach outside the walls of the church building. Oh, sounds like what the church was always supposed to do. Thank God we're finally got something getting us going. Not in-person ministry. All right, all right. Ministry that happens through digital spaces. Yes, electronic ministry. This is great. This is great. There are so many ways to describe it. There's no right answer, wrong answer. Tech ministry in a computer. I love it. Creating community. Ooh, beautiful, beautiful. Keep them coming if you got them. There are lots of ways to think about this. There are lots of, you know, I would say misconceptions even, and we'll get to some of those as we land the plane at the very, very end. You've touched on a lot of really good insights just here in the chat. I really love it. Community while sitting alone, Richard. Everyone, look at that statement. That's a one to quote. I often say when we do communion on Zoom at Riverside that those are the moments that remind us, even if you're by yourself, you're not alone. And oh, that's what's so needed, so needed. I asked a bunch of my friends. You briefly saw a slight intro of one of them on that video as it shifted. That same question, what is digital ministry, a couple years back. So this is a few friends of mine who lean into digital ministry spaces for a lot of work. I think they're all in the US. I apologize. I do have some Canadian friends who are really leaning in well. I need to update this video so we can get some of you all and others in it as well. But here's a quick little response from a few of my friends who are really playing in these spaces and what they would say. And I think you'll find some good resonance with what you've already said as well. So one more brief video as we lean into this question.
Hi, my name is Nathan Webb. I'm the nerd pastor at Checkpoint Church, an online church for nerds, geeks, and gamers. And I think that digital ministry is fundamentally no different than any other form of ministry. It's just ministry utilizing a different tool set than we're typically used to. So we're still building churches, we're still building community, we're still building spaces for worship to happen. We're just using the tool set of digital tools rather than the ones that we're typically used to. Sometimes this can be reaching a different demographic, a different people group, and letting them meet Jesus. Sometimes it can be the group we've always reached just with, like I said, different tools. So digital ministry is less about what we're doing and more about how we're doing it.
What is digital ministry? It's no different than what Jesus did during his years of ministry. He was walking from town to town, teaching and preaching and healing, using his voice and the modeling of his life as tools to share the good news, meeting people where they are. Today, in a world still navigating life with COVID as a companion, we are to do the same. We are to use whatever we have available, adapting and innovating, using technology and social media as tools for ministry, meeting people where they are. And digital ministry today provides for us a much further reach than we've ever had before, a reach that doesn't require we soak our feet at the end of the day.
Digital ministry is the continuation of Jesus's command to go. Whether we are learning how to use a printing press to spread the gospel or an Oculus, our command is to go and tell people the good news so that they know of God's incredibly inclusive love. See you in the metaverse.
Hey everybody, this is Dan Wunderlich. I'm a United Methodist pastor and I host the church marketing podcast for the United Methodist Church. And because I spend so much of my time thinking about church marketing, I want to start by saying digital ministry and church marketing overlap, but they aren't the same thing. Too many churches think they're doing digital ministry when they're really just telling people when and where to show up. Digital ministry is anytime you use things like social media, video, email, texting to accomplish the mission of the church, which at my church is helping one another take our next faithful step in coming to know, love, and trust Jesus more. So anytime we do that through digital means, that's digital ministry.
Hi, it's Kirk Moore here. And you know what digital ministry is? It's ministry, only it's online. It's using the resources and the technology that exist. It's real community. It's real ministry. It's real interaction. It's just done online. It's real. Did I say it's real? Yeah, digital ministry, totally real. Totally uses technology. Totally awesome.
Hi, I'm Pastor Sarah, aka disorganized.religion on TikTok. And I'm Karen. Digital ministry connects people to one another and to God using digital tools, which makes it uniquely accessible to people who don't go outside or who can't. It's public square ministry you can join from anywhere you have Wi-Fi or a cell signal. You can build a community that people can engage with 24/7 across time zones and cultures. And people who are up to something in the world can connect, combine their gifts, and do more together. So what I'm hearing is that it breaks down barriers that prop up stuff like racism and ableism, and then it gives everyday people a voice in the broader conversation about faith, and then gives them the practical tools to organize for action. Yeah, sounds like a big FU to the patriarchy. Amen.
So a few answers from a handful of fun digital individuals. A lot of them are on a lot of the platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. You can find a lot of them there. Great stuff. Substack even. Nathan Webb has a great Substack called Pixel and Pulpit. I definitely recommend checking out. But I love just hearing a handful of voices like that, and really, they're just echoing what you already said in the chat. So I just want to point that out, that you said it first. You are the ones who were already broadening this definition of digital ministry beyond just, it's more than just the person who knows how to run Zoom. It is simply ministry in the world around us as we find it. It's just showing up in the world today. I almost like to think there's no such thing as a digital minister, because we're all digital ministers. If you are a pastor or a person who does anything in ministry and it involves an email, when did you send your first email to a congregant? That was your ordination into digital ministry. When did you have your first, MySpace account or Zanga or all the WordPress blogs we used to have back in the day? It keeps evolving, keeps changing. My answer to this question you're going to hear as we really lean into a theology of digital ministry, because I've kind of continued to frame this around just how do I see the call for digital ministry not just as tech support, but where is the ministry side of that really coming in? So a few brief things here, then this will lead us into a bit more about belonging, and you're going to see it dovetailing into this as well. But for me, a theology of digital ministry has three images, three metaphors: an Airstream, the Little Mermaid, and a campfire. This is how I frame my understanding of digital ministry. So we'll start with the Airstream. I like Airstreams. My wife and I have one. We lived in one for about a year until the pandemic and our first kid came along and made us shift things a little bit. But see, here we are the day we moved into it back in 2019. And then when we had our firstborn son, we got a smaller Airstream instead. And then our family kept growing. We have 2 kids now, and we love this little one in particular. It's a 16-foot Airstream Caravel because we can take it anywhere. It can fit into any campsite. It's so flexible for whatever context we find ourselves in. Oh, did you hear that metaphor already for digital ministry? So this is why a theology of digital ministry for me. We are never stuck in one place, but we're able to go to almost any place. And that to me sounds a lot like the story we continue to see back in the Hebrew scriptures, back when there was this tent, this tabernacle. The cloud of the Lord was on the tabernacle by day, and fire was in the cloud by night before the eyes of the house of Israel at each stage in their journey. They weren't stuck in one place. They didn't have, 4 walls and a foundation that kept them firmly in one geographic center. They could go where they needed to go. It's easy to get stuck in the building. We know that all too well. Someone even said in the chat, digital ministry gets us out of the building, which is the point all along. But I think digital ministry is that tabernacle experience. It's the Airstream that can go anywhere it needs to go. You aren't bound by the 4 walls and the maintenance that it involves. You have the ability to be wherever you need to go. The flexibility is built into it. So digital ministry is not bound to a building or static location, but it can go with people wherever they are and wherever they go. That to me is an essential aspect of ministry in general, and I think digital ministry really makes that possible. A second one is this silhouette here, The Little Mermaid. I said I'm a child of the 80s. Growing up there, Disney movies were definitely a part of my world. And this one for sure was one of them, and a huge foundation of both my theology in general, but digital ministry in particular. No, not how to comb your hair with a fork. It is this part. I want to be where the people are. Did you know that Ariel was just quoting Jesus? The word became flesh and lived among us. Okay, maybe she wasn't really quoting Jesus, but I feel like there's a lot of Little Mermaid theology that we can learn here of being where the people are. That's what the call to ministry has always been. It's not about going to some separate location and waiting for the people to come to you. It's about being where the people are. And I think that is exactly what digital ministry enables and empowers. It's incarnational ministry. And yeah, the word incarnation, carne means flesh, but I think more than just physical flesh, it's this concept of presence, of being present with somebody. And yeah, being in the same physical space is a way of being present, but so is sharing these digital spaces, being where the people are. There was a while when I was off of Facebook. This was like maybe 15, 20 years ago almost now. And I still have lots of thoughts about Facebook because we don't need any billionaires pulling all the strings in our life like they keep doing it. But there was a while when I jumped ship and I was done with Facebook. And then I was a pastor at a church in New York, and a congregant was saying to another congregant after the worship service, "Hey, thanks so much for praying for me. It was really great that you and the whole community was there praying for me this past week." And I was like, "Oh, did I miss a call from the prayer chain?" Because prayer phone chains still are a thing, right? And she's like, "No, I posted on Facebook, and about 24 people from the church were in the comments supporting me and letting me know they were praying for me." Well, I didn't know that happened because I wasn't on Facebook. I wasn't being where the people are. So it made me realize at that moment, and so many others, that an essential part of ministry has always been being where the people are. And that is so true in digital spaces as well. People are showing up in these digital spaces, and is the church willing to show up as well? If we abandon the internet because we don't like what might happen there, we're just abandoning it to what those agendas will make possible as well. How do we be present in the spaces that our message is so essential and needed? Digital ministry is incarnational ministry, meeting people where they are. It's being in the places that they're in. It doesn't mean you need to be in every place. That's a good thing to make note of. Just like in the normal physical world around us, you don't need to be in every single place. You can't, but you need to be present and intentional about where you are. Perhaps the same is true in these online spaces. You don't need to be on every platform. You don't need to be exhausting yourself, being pushed around by push notifications. Choose intentionally. Where are your people? Or where are the people that you are called to serve, and show up intentionally in those spaces? I think that's incarnational ministry. So that's number 2. And the third one, this is one of my favorites that we'll come back to again later. I think digital ministry is like a campfire. And what I mean by that is a campfire, it really, think about it this way. If you were walking through the countryside at night and you saw a circle of chairs just in the dark, people sitting there, okay, interesting. I'm going to just keep walking. But if there's a campfire in the middle of that circle of chairs, suddenly the whole vibe is different. It feels cozy, inviting. It becomes a space that draws you in. What I love about a campfire is you might not even do anything other than sit there next to the people warmed by the campfire. Or maybe you'll strike up a conversation, share some stories, sing a song, roast some marshmallows. There's so much possible just because of this thing around which people can gather. To me, that is what digital ministry makes possible. This makes me think in the earliest experiment of the church in Acts, when they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, fellowship, the breaking of bread, and prayers. There was this thing around which they gathered. Community, I don't think just happens because it happens. It happens when people have shared experiences. They meet their needs together. There's a reason and a way for them to come together. There's some mechanism and structure in which community can happen. I was saying to someone the other day, just even the way we do it in churches, what if your church met in a different location at a different time and a different day, like every 7 to 10 days? You didn't even have a set schedule. It would be really hard for A, anyone to show up, and B, any sort of connection to happen. The consistency around which our people can gather is the foundation of community. And the same is true in these online spaces. We create these digital campfires that people can show up around and gather around to have real connections. So when I think about online content, I often think of online campfires. How are we creating something that allows people to gather and have those shared experiences together? Digital ministry creates spaces for people to gather and reflect, to grow and connect. So when I ask the question, what is digital ministry? My mind goes to all of this. I think about Airstreams, I think about The Little Mermaid, and I think about campfires. So that again is my frame for this. We're really going to lean into the cultivating community side. That's really what tonight's going to be about. And that's what I think is most essential. Yes, I think we need more progressive theological online content. We need people to see the beautiful diversity and expression of what it means to be a beloved child of God, because there's a whole lot of representation of what it means to be a Christian that I don't always feel represents the whole message that I find in the book. So we need us to show up and make the content in these places, but it's not just about the content. It's about the connection and the community and the belonging. So this next part here, we're going to talk about a philosophy of belonging. Now, before I get into this rant and ramble, I need you back in the chat again. I need you to put in the chat 3 to 5 different places where you find a sense of belonging. Like I might say, I find belonging by being a Detroit Lions fan, the football team here in Michigan, or being a progressive person in my conservative town. So I have belonging with like a few other progressive friends in my town. Or I'm a part of the Riverside Church. That's a sense of belonging. Or I'm a part of Run Talk, with a group of runners on TikTok that all support each other. So those are some, or I'm a dad and I have a family. Where do you find belonging? What would be some of the places we got in here? Music festivals, curling club, coffee shop. I love it. On the hiking trail, with your VW bus friends. Yeah, that's how I feel about my Airstream friends. Gardening cooperative, in your choir. Yes, yes. Keep them coming. Get a few more examples in here. Hockey rink, quilting groups, card groups, your church. Yes. Book club. Oh, I love it. I love it. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. There are so many different places where we can find belonging. And this section here, we're gonna lean into an actual scientific structure and term that is used to understand belonging. It's called proxemics. I'm not making this stuff up. Proxemics is the study of human use of space. So proxemics, proximity, that's the connection there. The study of human use of space and the effects that population density has on behavior, communication, and social interaction. So all the examples you're giving in the chat, you're going to really see the connections here in a minute. And this idea of proxemics, it was developed by a guy named Edward Hall. He was a cultural anthropologist. He coined the term in 1963, proxemics, and he defined it as the interrelated observation and theories of human use of space as specialized elaboration of culture. Basically, it's how humans take up space and how do we connect to one another in regards to the space we physically share. So he would define it like this. He would say there are four spaces of belonging. There's public space, social space, personal space, and intimate space. And again, this is a scientific understanding. So he is looking at proxemics with a physical proximity. So here's his definition. Public space is 12 feet and farther. When you are kind of in a 12-foot or greater distance, that's shared public space. So you can think about a lot of the things we've listed here. A lot of those are part of public space. When you are on the hiking trail, you're sharing that public space with other hikers. Then the social space moves a little closer. 4 to 12 feet. So suddenly this is like, your gardening cooperative or your hockey rink. You're in a social space with people, and the physical proximity is Edward Hall's definition of how that shifts and changes. Personal space, now we're into that 1.5 to 4 foot. So you're getting much closer. And he's really just defining this based on physical proximity. And then that intimate space is when you are 0 to 18 inches. So you are, as close as you can be on the couch watching a holiday movie. Anyone else started binging those yet? Just me and my wife? Okay. So I think there's some clear examples of how you can put this into all the things we just listed in the chat, which is great. You can probably clearly see the different categories of these things. Like I am a runner, so that's me in a general public space with other runners. But then I'm a part of this community on TikTok. That's a social space. And we have meetups where we actually support each other at local runs and we go to big races together. But then I have my personal friends in here in my town that I'll actually go on a run with. Steven and Dave, I could text them tomorrow and go on a run tomorrow night. That's more of a personal space. And my wife is probably the only one who would really get that intimate space because, well, she gets that closest side and we know each other the best. And I think we can think about this in church, sometimes like this. Public space, I'm a Christian. That's the general public belonging we can share. Social, you're a part of a local church. Personal space, I'm a part of a small group. I have a connection there. And then that intimate space might be your best friend or your significant other, really, really a select few. Now, well, the thing is, I think sometimes we kind of think this is a pipeline. Oh, sorry, I have this in here. How does this translate to online? I think there's similar categories. Some public spaces, I share the online experience. I watch online. Social, I leave a comment. I start interacting. Personal, I'm joining on Zoom. You can see my face, hear my voice. I'm a little closer to the connection. And then that intimate space, having regular direct messages and contact with people one-to-one. But here's where I think we get the misconception of belonging. Too often, we look at it like this. How do we get people to move from public to social, social to personal, and then personal to intimate, right? We're thinking we got to get them moving from one to the other. But I think that's wrong. I don't think this is a sequence. It can be. Sometimes people will move there, but the goal isn't that everyone becomes your intimate best friends. That's just not sustainable. That's not healthy. That's a whole other codependence oversharing conversation. I often think of this in terms of a programmer versus an environmentalist. Where's my gardening co-op people at? You're going to know this one. A programmer controls the people and the results. You start here, then here, then here, then here. Go through this sequence. First, do the live stream, then join on Zoom, then do which nothing against those processes. That can be good. But an environmentalist is cultivating space where people can naturally connect and engage. You're not trying to control, you must do it in this order. It's simply, how do we create space for people to have the sense of belonging they need? This is, I think, true for just life in general, ministry in general, but it becomes very true in these digital spaces when we need to think about all the different ways and spaces people can find belonging. The way we think they need to belong might not be the belonging they need. That can be a wake-up call we all need to hear. Why isn't that person ever putting their camera on? Why are they always, off camera on Zoom? Maybe that's what they need, and that's okay. Why does this person never join virtual coffee hour? We see them in the live chat. Maybe that's what they need. We can make the invitation, but we can't assume that my understanding of belonging is what they also have to have. Really, I look at it like this. What does it look like to provide the spaces people need to belong in digital ministry? That means we have to have a diversity of ways and spaces. We have to recognize the different modalities people need. This has always been true. The person who wants to just sit in the back of your church building on a Sunday morning by themselves, if you start pushing them to join a small group and get involved, you're actually pushing them away because you're not recognizing what they need. Doesn't mean you shouldn't have mechanisms and on ramps for people to have that next step closer if they want to need it, but you can't push everyone to have the same experience. It's recognizing where is this person showing up and how do we give them the space they need. So this, I think, is a necessary framework about cultivating online community because we often think that belonging has to look one way. And I think we need to recognize how are we giving a multifaceted approach for the belonging and community people needs in the midst of their already busy and chaotic lives. Now I'm gonna pause here for a second. I'm gonna stop sharing. You've been looking at words on a screen long enough. Let's see our fantastic faces. I wanna just give a moment in case there are questions that I can clarify about all of this that we've been saying. If there are ideas you have, we have a couple more things we're still going to cover. So we're far from done, but I want to just give us a moment to catch our breath and be real people interacting together. Drop them in the chat if that's easy. Flail your hand, raise your Zoom hand. We can find you and see you. And I'd love to just give a moment to hear from others who have questions, comments, things that could be clarified further from everything we've shared so far about what is digital ministry, a theology of digital ministry, and this philosophy of belonging.
Jim,
Any insights? Yeah.
there are a couple questions in the Q&A.
There are fantastic.
Yeah. Can I I'll pose them to you.
Sounds great.
Has anyone, and maybe this is for you or anyone experience with WhatsApp communities, how to create and maintain them? And if you have, Stefan would love to know.
WhatsApp, fantastic. There's lots of ways that people can have those like direct messaging communities. WhatsApp, owned by Meta, Facebook world. So that's just a thing to be aware of. Signal is one that happens a lot that I've seen a lot more lately. I think all of those kinds of apps is an easy example. I mean, you group messages on any platform. It's an easy example of it can feel like there's so many things to try and do, and how do you pick the right one becomes the question. Here's my kind of litmus test for that. Who is it you're trying to gather, and what platforms do they already know how to use? And maybe one even like step back binary from that could be, would you classify those people as digital natives or not? Meaning, how adaptable are they to all of the online technologies, or how much are you going to have to do some hand holding and teach them how to program their VCR? Metaphor, or maybe not, you never know. So I think that's a good framework because then it kind of helps answer the question, which platform has greater accessibility, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Signal, whether it's setting up Discord. There's lots of ways you could do it. But I think it's looking at where are people already at? Where is the momentum? I think one of the hardest things with creating online community is teaching people new habits and patterns, because we already have the things we like to do. We have our favorite apps and systems and platforms. And a lot of this work then is you're not just competing with how do you get them to use whatever thing you're using for community. It's your competition is how do you get them to stop defaulting to all the things they already tap on their phone. So that's kind of a meta answer to that, Stefan. But I don't have any particular experience, but that's the way I think about any of those apps and systems. It's why at Riverside, I've been very slow to roll out any sort of dedicated online community. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, because I'm trying to get the feel for where are my people already showing up, where are they already present. And for us, that's been Zoom. We rock a great Zoom meeting because they've learned that system for 5 years now, and we sure as hell aren't going to change it. The church just moved to Microsoft Teams, and so they're shutting down a ton of Zoom accounts. And I'm like, no, you cannot shut mine down, because I am not teaching all of our online congregants how to use a new platform after half a decade of teaching them this platform. And they're like, okay, don't worry, yours isn't going away. All right, Stefan, great question as always. Oh, I see them in here now too. How do you convince the council or its equivalent it's okay, even essential to fail? Oh, that one's a tougher one. I mean, I think a crowd like this knows that it's okay to fail and you got to fail fast so you can learn from it. Failure's not the mistake. It's failing to learn from it is the mistake. Uh, I think often there it's the need for storytelling, letting people see the process and that failure is not the end, and how can we tell the stories of failure that led to persistence and new possibilities. So it's reframing and retraining a culture around that. And one of the benefits of digital ministry is there is a little less overhead risk because it's not the same. Well, it can be. I often like to try things in digital spaces that have a time-bound nature to it because it gives you kind of the impermanence built in. We're going to do this for the season of Advent or the season of Lent. There is an ending in sight, so we will stop it at some point and evaluate if we want to keep doing it. That helps mitigate the risk and the fear of failure because you're building in an endpoint and you're not saying this is the thing we're going to do forever. And I think in digital things in general, it's a little easier. I often thought that of the internet as like a digital sandbox where we get to play together and make something and think this was really cool. Okay, on to the next thing. Or, you know what, let's protect this one and let it stay a little longer. But the impermanence is part of the beauty of the experience where it's going to change, it's going to evolve. And if we're okay with that, I think something really beautiful is possible. Now, being okay with impermanence can be a tricky thing for humans in general, let alone church people. We like the carpet, the color it is. We like the thermostat, the temperature it is. And we like the hymnal, the edition we have. Don't ever change a thing. So the internet feels like it's full of change all the time. So that's a bigger change theory analysis to bring people into. But that's why you all are so fantastic at what you do. And how do you invite people to join communities? Over and over and over again, you have to say it at least a dozen more times than you think you need to. You have to have I think you need to think about the onboarding process so meticulously. Nathan Webb, who you saw in that one video, who is pastor at Checkpoint Church, definitely worth checking him out. He has said to me that in the work he does on Discord is show before you expect. You can't just expect people to log in and post every day in the online space because you have to show it before you can even expect it. This has always been true. We just forget that once upon a time we didn't have church greeters and we had to show people what it was like to be greeted and how to do that ministry. That's simple ministry, yet incredibly significant. We're building new cultures. So I think it's the necessary slow work of showing it again and again and again before you can expect people to reciprocate. They need to feel the impact of how you show up. If you expect people to be posting something every day in an online space that you manage, but you're only posting once a week, well, there you go. If you can't even do it once a day, that your expectation is off. So how do you invite them though? Over and over again, all the ways you can. Email, say it a lot. Again, what's the priority? Again, this is why at Riverside, we kind of are on the fence on an online community because you want to do it intentionally. You want to recognize you're going to learn from the process, but you can't just do it accidentally and hope it happens. It takes time and care and intentionality. Oh, yeah. Good questions already. Good things along the way. All right. We got a few more things we're going to chat about. We're at 7:53, so we still got 40-ish minutes, a little under, so we're good on time. Let me share again here, and we will be up and running. This next part, we're going to talk a bit about content versus community, because to me, that becomes the tension sometimes in these online spaces. We end up getting caught up in making the content, which is an essential aspect of it. It's not like the content is unnecessary. To me, that's the digital campfire, the thing around which we gather. But we can get so fixated on having the best, the perfect lighting, all the right sound and the camera, and it's not perfect, so we're not going to do it. Well, if you wait for it to be perfect, you're never going to do it. And the point isn't the content. The point is the community. So for this, there's a couple videos I want us to watch, two videos to be exact, that really talk about content and community. One of them is from a few years ago, and it's a little shorter. It's two guys, Rhett and Link, who you might know from the internet. They have a show called Good Mythical Morning, and they have a little interview here. And then the second one is one that just was published a couple days ago from the New York Times from Jack Conte, the CEO of Patreon. And I think it hits on some really interesting things. Rhett and Link talk about community, especially instead of content. And then Jack talks about the nature of the content and what does it even do to us. So let's take a break from my voice and hear these gentlemen talk a little bit about the internet.
When we got into YouTube, it wasn't about connection. a community. It was about content. It was like, we are making this piece of content and we want you to connect with the content. We want you to appreciate this thing that we've made. Meanwhile, we'll do this GMM thing because we need a daily connection with fans, and we don't want to do like the daily like family vlog thing. We don't want to bring that into our family, so let's just do a show. And then you start, and again, this was difficult for both of us, I think, this reluctance to accept that, oh, they're connecting more with you directly than they are with your content. It's like if you were a painter and I'm working on this incredible thing and you guys just want to ask me questions about it. And that's the thing that you're entertained by, is just talking to me about my painting and not the painting itself, or just hanging out with me.
Not talking about the painting, talking to you about your shirt.
Oh, yeah. I really like your shirt. Where'd you get it? You know, let's talk about your family. Let's tell me about your vacation, whatever it is.
So there's an example of the content isn't always the point, the connection people want to have. And these are two guys who are huge online creators, and that has been a huge frame for them. So more on that in a minute, but here's now Jack Conte. This one's a smidge longer, but I think you're going to really love it. Fantastic video that I just watched a couple days ago and was excited to bring into this conversation.
Our brains are being melted by the algorithm.
Attention is infrastructure.
Those algorithms are designed.
So the algorithm.
Part of attention is sometimes conflict, provocation.
We're lonely and depressed, getting more polarized every day. We're endlessly doom scrolling, bombarded by rage bait. And it's because our experience on the internet is being overrun by these attention-based algorithms controlled by tech companies that don't have our best interests at heart. I'm tired of what social media is doing to our brains. It has to be possible to have a better experience on the internet, grounded in creativity and human connection. A more human algorithm. Here's the kicker. I'm a CEO of one of these freaking tech companies. But I'm determined to not be part of the problem. Let me explain. I co-founded a company called Patreon, a platform where creators can share their work, connect with their fans, and build their businesses. And on top of being a CEO, I've been making music on the internet for 17 years now.
Johnny, don't leave me. You said you'd love me forever.
My band is called Pomplamoose, and back when we first started putting out our music online, when you followed someone, you would see their posts and build a meaningful connection with them over time. In that era of the internet, we were building real community. But that's all been replaced. Now, when you open these apps, you don't see posts from people you follow. You just see whatever will keep your eyes glued to the screen. And it's become harder and harder for creative people like me to build a community around our work. So it's not just the people doing the scrolling who feel like crap. The people making the work also don't like how the internet is going right now. And all that change is being fueled by the algorithm. An algorithm is essentially a formula that looks through all the media that's being made on the internet every day and decides what you see and what you don't. An algorithm is the most profound manifestation of a company's priorities and values and business incentives. In fact, if you want to know what a tech company's priorities are, if you want to see into its soul, look at what its algorithm is optimizing for. Because right now, platforms like TikTok and Instagram and Facebook are very clear about what matters to them. Their algorithms are optimizing for attention. They're prioritizing short-term fixation over long-term connection because they value ad revenue over our humanity. The business model of these companies is to extract human attention from our brains like gold from a mine and to convert it into ad revenue. They call these feeds for you, but it's not for you. It's for them. So am I saying we should just destroy all algorithms? No, of course not. There's just too much stuff on the internet. We need some kind of machine to help us sort through it all. But it should show you the best of human creativity, not rot your brain. And this isn't an impossible problem. We just need to rethink how creativity and community exist on the internet, with creators and their fans at the center, not advertisers. But this can't be lip service marketing. The actual gears and guts of the machine need to change for this to work. The way I see it, a better algorithm, a better internet, comes down to 3 principles. First, prioritize long-term relationships. Algorithms should have the keep your attention dial turned down and the long-term human connection dial turned up. For example, the way we're thinking about this, rather than just flashing the newest, shiniest thing, our algorithm is going to surface the full catalog of work from the creators you follow. And that way, you get to see the whole arc of a person's career when you follow them. The internet should help you get to know a person better over time, rather than being bombarded and distracted by a never-ending parade of rage bait and trend jacking and dunks. Second, fund art, not ads. Rather than focus on making money for advertisers, algorithms should focus on making money for creators. Social media companies will say that that obviously wouldn't work for them. And I understand that. That's a hard change for them. But they should change to be better for humans, rather than humans compromising our well-being to be better for them. Because now we know what happens when attention is the goal. If the internet were instead set up to compensate creative people for their work, there would be an explosion of art and podcasts and videos and books that never would have existed. That is what algorithms should be tuned for, and it's what ours are tuned for, not ad revenue. Third, put humans in control. I don't think machines should have total control. Algorithms would be better and have better taste if they were coupled with humans. For example, we're allowing creators to recommend other creators they love, and we're hiring super fans to curate the best work from creators they love. And that's not even new. Other companies have been making great curated discovery lists for years. Twitter and Facebook used to pay curators too, but they gave that up. We need to bring that back. Societies that value artists are better for it. Artists take risks. They say what we're all thinking, but are too afraid to speak out loud. They bring us together and remind us why it's good to be alive. They blow our minds with new ideas and get us to shake our asses on the dance floor. They make us nostalgic and rethink our perspectives and are unapologetic about believing in ideals. It is possible for the internet to be a place for that. And it is possible for algorithms to serve people instead of people serving algorithms.
That whole rant at the end there about what artists do, I feel like could be said for pastors. You know, pastors are the ones who are going to say the things people need to hear but don't know how to say. A sermon is not just a lecture, but it's an art form. The work of ministry is an art form. And so when it comes to these digital spaces, we are playing in the arena of these algorithms. And that's where it gets tricky. And you can get caught up in the content game rather than the community game, because the internet seems geared towards content more than community, or community only at the benefit of the giant machines and systems. So it's difficult when the whole system seems rigged against community organizing in these online spaces. And I think one way to think about this is just asking, well, what are we focused on? What is the thing we're actually trying to do when we show up in these online spaces? We need to show up. I'm a big fan of making incredible YouTube content and finding ways to make connections, and I've been shaped and encountered by the online content, but it can't just be about the content. When you make it, what are you focused on? The platforms focus on the metrics. If you make a YouTube video and you go to your YouTube studio, it's going to immediately tell you how that video compares against the previous 10 video, compares for what? How it was viewed, how long people watched, how many, ticks up and to the right your subscriber count is going. Having more followers and subscribers does not mean you're having meaningful connections. Having views on a video might just mean a bunch of people disagree with you, or they're just, it's an echo chamber. How do we actually focus on connecting people and cultivating community? The content is a part of that, but it's not the point. It's a finger pointing at the moon. And so often we get focused on the finger and not the thing that it's pointing to. So what are you focused on? What are you measuring? Are we just focused on measuring how many followers we have on an account? Is that the whatever you measure, that becomes the thing that you are then driving towards? This is true in churches too. The biggest metrics churches take is how many people showed up on Sunday and how much money did they give. When those are the metrics we ask on a weekly basis, it shapes the way we think about preaching and the point of it all. What if the thing we're measuring was how was their faith deepened and how was our community formed? Those are harder things to measure because you can't just do a head count and a dollar sign. But I think we need to ask ourselves, what is it we're measuring? And then who defines success? Who gets to say when a thing is successful? Because it had more bodies showing up or more money to it? Those might be metrics. It had more views or we saw a spike in our subscribers. Those might tell us a story, but to me, those can't be the point. And when I look at these videos, Rhett and Link talking about people weren't even interested in the content. They wanted the connection all along. And then Jack giving a whole little TED talk there about the world wide web we're playing in and what is stacked against us. And he comes at it from an artist, but I think we can have the same sentiment as people of faith. We're artists too. How do we build community in a system that just wants clicks on content? I don't have all the answers, but I really want to get practical here. So we're going to land this in a practical space with back to that campfire. And this is why I think about creating digital campfires. So I want to end this time here in a little bit. We have one more bonus thing after this, but we'll have a little pause in between. With I want to just walk through some of the digital campfires at Riverside to give you a sense of some of the things we're doing in my context, what I've learned from them. I share this not as a prescription on what you should do too. None of this is prescriptive. This is just descriptive of my context. And this has been a long time coming. This is since 2019 when I've been focused specifically on digital ministry at Riverside, but this is almost a decade of me at Riverside leaning into this work in this space. And I get the unique privilege of that being my full-time job and focus. So hear all that first so you don't think, I too need to do everything Jim's about to talk through. This is simply an example, and I want to really focus this on that sense of it's about the community, not the content, or how does the content serve the community, not the other way around. So this is my list. Here's the big snapshot, and we're going to walk through a lot of these piece by piece to unpack them. This is what I spend a lot of my time focused on at the moment. Well, a couple of these are things that we're about to focus on, but I'll get to that in a second. One of them, The Word Made Fresh. This is a weekly video we produce. It's on YouTube. It's me talking with whoever's preaching on Sunday, usually our senior minister. And so we talk, we post a video in the week prior, and you might think, okay, we're posting online content. It's a content project. Kind of. I mean, we recognize some people want that, but the purpose of this for us is so that our congregants can listen in on a conversation with the preacher before they show up to church, so that when they come to church, they have the chance for them to have a deeper connection with what's happening, or they've seen kind of the behind the scenes cutting room floor before the thing even happened. We're priming them for what they're going to experience on Sunday, so when they show up, they are even more equipped for the conversation. And my favorite thing, this is published on YouTube. I love when like a 75-year-old church mother from our congregation will leave a comment having watched it, or, an 85-year-old retired individual in Sacramento, California comments how he looks forward to watching The Word Made Fresh. My biggest thing there, this is a big tactic, when you're posting content online and someone leaves a comment, what do? You respond. If someone says something to you in the back of your church sanctuary, are you just going to be like silent and ignore them? No, you're going to engage. So if someone from your community is saying something around a piece of content you posted, your biggest priority is responding and engaging and person to person. Sometimes you'll get some people who have different points of view, so you can choose how to respond in those situations. I will say, if we have a question on what do you do to the trolls, I actually find at times that the way in which you respond to a less than ideal comment is itself an opportunity to model how to have those conversations. So we have a lot of stuff at Riverside that's about women in ministry or queer theology or centering and celebrating queer folk, which some people don't like, or if I have a video where I call God her, I know I'm going to get a lot of Theo Dude Bros who come at me in the comments. But the way I respond to them can model how to have those conversations. Or it might be feeling snarky. You never know which side of me you're going to get. But when it comes to your congregants, your community, you show up and you respond in those spaces. So one thing we do, the Word Made Fresh, we make a video each week, sermon prep. You're all preaching sermons. Record a little conversation with someone in advance. Do it on Instagram Live. Do it as a live thing. There's lots of ways to do it, but the point is it's not about the content. It's about how that content empowers your community to deepen their connection with the experience they're going to have. The next one, Bible in a Minute. This feels like a content project. Bible in a Minute is a daily short form video project that I'm producing at Riverside. We're going through the entire Bible one chapter at a time with a video every single day. Each video is 1 minute long and they're dropped on every platform you can imagine. We're like at Jeremiah 40. We've been doing this for over 2 years. We're 700 and some chapters through, and we still have, about 14 months to go till we finish the whole Bible. So this is a lot of content, daily content. But it's not a content project. It's two other things. It's a network project. We're building a community of creators, of people who are contributing to the project. It's our clergy at Riverside. It's other faith leaders from across the country and around the world. And it's our congregants. We invite them to participate and reflect. So it's not just a listen to someone preach for a minute. It's inviting them to be a part of the experience where they are invited to participate. And then even more than that, what we've done with this is we have a weekday, a midweek Bible study every Wednesday at 12:30 in the afternoon, where we use some of these Bible in a Minute videos and we watch them together and we use that to talk about the Bible. We're going through the entire Bible, not just in a on your own consumption of these short videos, but then we have like a dozen of us who gather on Zoom to watch them and discuss them together. So the videos literally become the campfire around which we gather. This big seemingly content project is really a secret campfire in disguise so we can have an excuse to watch a thing, react to it, and respond together. Short circles. Here's another one. This is our Thursday night Zoom classes at Riverside. We have them every month. They're like 3 weeks long. We call them short circles because they last for 3 weeks and they're done. And they're circles because the point of it is people connecting with one another. This is led by our clergy, and we tell our clergy, lead a class on something that you could just talk about for 3 hours without any prep. Because the point isn't doing the work to lead a new class. The point is our congregation connecting with one another and with our clergy in new ways. It's almost like the content is secondary. When I've led them, I led one in October on a theology of Bluey. And we literally watched episodes of Bluey on Zoom and then talked about the theology we saw in those episodes. That was it. I did one on a theology of YouTube where we watched random YouTube videos. I did a theology of running where I talked about my experience with running and people shared their experience with movement and physical exercise and activity. Because the point isn't brilliant insights. The point is community coming together. The content is just the excuse. The community is the point. And it's just creating systems and mechanisms that community can happen. And I'll say this, with both the Bible in a Minute Bible study and these short circles, these are new ideas at Riverside. Bible in a Minute Bible study is brand new as of October. And Short Circles is on its second year. And with both of them, every time I'm like, is anyone going to show up? Are people really going to log on to Zoom to do these silly things? And then people do. And new people, different people that I've never seen before. And then they come back and they become regulars. And I'm like, this is blowing my mind how it's literally as simple as putting the chairs around the table and unlocking the door. In digital ministry terms, it's setting up a Zoom meeting and letting people know how to access it and what you're going to experience there. It's the if you build it, they will come Field of Dreams mentality. All right, next one. This is where we shift away from Zoom a little bit. Click and connect. This is the weekly email I send. We have an email we send just to our online congregants, people who are engaged in our online congregational work. The church has one they send to the whole church email list, but the one I send is just to people who aren't in our local area or who have connected and engaged in our online things. And it lets me send it not just as a bulletin board. I use Substack for this. That's an online email kind of service thing that I describe it as like 1 part email distribution and 1 part blog. So people can go to Substack and leave comments community, and they also get it in their email. So it goes right to them and it beats the algorithm. But the purpose of this is not just a bulletin board. It includes that. It includes like, here's the specific online classes and events and opportunities we don't want you to miss. Stephen Durham's leading a Zoom class in December, and we have our Christmas Eve service that you can join online and those kinds of things. But it always begins with a message from me. I just reflect on what we've been doing in our digital spaces, and how I think about showing up in digital spaces. And I want them to get to know me. I want it to feel like I actually wrote a letter as a human being, where my quirks and personality come out in the letter. And then the next thing I include in it is a spotlight on one of our online congregants. I've been asking our online community to fill out a form and send in a photo with a few simple questions. Where are you at? How did you connect with Riverside? Why are you still here? Describe a meaningful encounter in an online space at Riverside. And then we feature someone every single week. And the weeks when I don't feature anybody, it's I ran out of submissions, please send one in. And then people do. But the point of this email is to help people connect with one another, trying different ways to get people to deepen their connection. Bible study on Zoom, pretty self-explanatory what that means. We have a Bible study every Sunday on Zoom. And people come from all across the country. We have people in California waking up at 6:30 to go to a Bible study on Zoom. We have people in Miami and South Carolina, and a couple from Canada sneak in. Sorry, we're stealing some of your Canadians for our Zoom Bible study. But it's as simple as just having that space where people can have that time together. This list here's what happens in Sunday morning worship. This is where we do things in our Sunday morning worship that I want to highlight, because these are intentional for cultivating community. When all this stuff we're talking about theoretically, big picture, philosophy of belonging, great in theory, but it means nothing unless it comes into practice. So this is some of what we do on a Sunday morning to really think about the experience of an online congregant and how they engage and connect with one another. My fundamental philosophy is that worshiping online can never be peeking in through the windows and watching church happen. Too often, that's what it defaults to be. You're just stuck with a camera in the back or in the side or wherever, or whatever multi-camera setup you have. Fantastic. That's better than nothing, but you've just gotten started. That's the green flag starting the race, not the checkered flag finishing the race. We've still got so much to do. It's what is the experience of someone in that space? At Riverside, we have a unique phenomenon where most of our Sunday morning worshiping congregation is online. It's been 60% online congregants since the pandemic, and that's just been consistent since we came back into the building. It only changes on Easter and our homecoming Sunday. So we're always having to ask, wait, who are we designing this for? Who are we overlooking? Who are we forgetting about? Are we only catering to the people in the room? Who are you physically looking at? If you're standing in the front of your space or in the pulpit, are you just looking at the physical bodies in the room? You got to look at, imagine if I did this whole presentation like this. This doesn't feel very engaging, does it? That's the experience that so many people have in online worship. They feel like they are just watching someone else have an experience. So how do we make it an intentional thing? Some things we do at Riverside, we have the live chat open. We broadcast through YouTube. So we always have the live chat. Someone is there. Usually it's me. We have a seminary intern who's helping. Our communications teams help if I'm off. But someone is there as a greeter to greet people and welcome people and to be present in that live chat space. Every week in the service, we ask people where they're joining us from and a question for each Sunday. And then it's connected to the theme of the Sunday. And then people share back. We gather those responses and we share them. We always share at the passing of the peace. Today, we're passing the peace not just here in the nave, but as far as, and then we list the locations that people are joining from to both let the person in Kentucky know, hey, Bob, we know you're with us, and to let the people in the room know, did you know there's a lot of people with us who you can't see right now? And then at the end of the passing of the peace, we bring everyone back to their seats. As you return to your seats, here's some of the responses from our online congregation. And so we share back the things that our online congregants had shared at the beginning of the worship service. We're bringing the voices of the silent congregants into the microphone in the space. The people who are typically forgotten by the people in the room, we are centering their voice in a particular way. Every first Sunday, we do communion on Zoom, which is literally that. It's just while communion is happening, we have a Zoom link that people can go to. And then typically myself or another clergy is there to facilitate communion on Zoom. It takes like 5 to 7 minutes, but it's the most meaningful 5 to 7 minutes that we get to see each other and put the community in communion. And then my favorite thing is every Sunday at the end of worship, we have virtual coffee hour, which is just a Zoom call We're all about Zoom calls because we've been doing Zoom for over 5 years now with our community. And so we know how to do it. And so that's every Sunday after the postlude. We have a Zoom space for about an hour. The first half is just connecting with one another. I'm typically hosting it, but others will step in as well, reflecting on the worship service we just experienced. And then one thing that's unique about what we do is the preacher typically joins. So we have a laptop set up in the robing room, and it's usually our senior minister. Sometimes it's our other staff as well. She just sits down there, takes off her robe, and spends about a half an hour with a sermon talk back with, 2 to 3 dozen online congregants. That's it, just 2 to 3 dozen. We had like 500 worshiping on YouTube, but only 2 to 3 dozen joined virtual coffee hour. And you know what? That's a success. I'm not caught up in the numbers game. It's not, I didn't get 100% retention or carryover. You know what? I'm deepening a community with those people. I'm seeing Ian go from a commenter on YouTube to showing up consistently and leaving comments in the Zoom chat. I'm seeing Stephen be with us for 3 years now, leading Bible studies, having never been to the building, yet feeling so connected to our community. And I'm hearing our senior minister tell me that she feels a deeper connection with these online congregants in virtual coffee hour than she does with some of the congregants in the building because of the consistent time she spends with them every Sunday in virtual coffee hour. So creating these spaces where people can have the opportunity to have shared experiences, to notice who's absent. It's easy to overlook an absent person in an online space. In the physical space, you're like, wait a minute, Dr. Evelyn is not sitting in her usual seat. But in an online space, you can't see their usual seat. These Zoom spaces give us that sense of like, who's usually with us that's not with us. Let's check in on this person. Let's follow up on that person. And that's what community is all about. None of this is new. It's just doing the things we're used to doing, but doing them in potentially new spaces. All right, these last two. These are two that I haven't done yet, but these are the two that I'm leaning into in the next couple of years here. Developing an online community space. There's things like Circle and Mighty or Discord or all sorts of ways, WhatsApp and Signal. You can have spaces where your community can connect with one another. I think it's worth leaning into these spaces. You all have a part of this with the whole network that you're a part of with this group. I think this is essential because there's so much noise in the algorithm-driven platforms. How do we create, enclaves of just belonging in the midst of that? It's a challenge, but I think this is a worthwhile effort. Nathan Webb over at Checkpoint Church is doing this incredibly well with his work, so I definitely would recommend checking out anything with his name on it. He's got lots of great insights on this, and I call him about every other week with questions about this. But that's one thing I want to take seriously at Riverside that we're not doing yet, but I want to find ways for people to connect with one another all week long, not just that once a week on Sunday online, not just through a connection with me on email or comments on a thing. I want to make spaces for community to happen. And that's one that I'm leaning into. And the other one, this one I'm really excited about. We're probably going to do this in the spring. We're going to develop online and on-site pen pals, where we take someone from our online community and someone from our on-site community, and we pair them up for like 3 or 6 months. We haven't decided on how long, and they're pen pals. And it's literally that, writing a letter and sending it in the mail. There's nothing new about that. What I like about that is it's a way of challenging the assumption, which is a little less prevalent these days, that you can't have a real relationship with someone online. Oh, those online friends, they're not real friends. That's kind of been past us now since, 2020 put us all on Zoom and we realized this is a viable space for connection. But whenever I hear someone say that, I'm like, did you have a pen pal as a kid? Did you get to know that person? Were you ever in the same space as that person? Oh, you weren't, yet you got to know them in an authentic way. So we're going to bring back some of that at Riverside with some online and on-site pen pals. Also, online and on-site is typically our nomenclature for how we describe those individuals. We avoid saying online and in person because it makes the people online feel like they are not in person. Like, I'm in person. I'm in this person right here in my space. I'm just not in the same place that your person is. I'm embodied in my own space. So we use online and on-site as the way of distinguishing how people are engaging. All right, so those are some of the ways in which I'm thinking about digital ministry. And we began this with the question, what is digital ministry? I want to end it with, what is a digital minister? So here's a few just statements to have us sit with to wrap this up, and then we'll look at whatever questions I've been ignoring for the past 20 minutes or so. A digital minister is not a tech director. A digital minister is a pastor who uses digital tools and online spaces for ministry. A digital minister is not the person who can answer every question about how to use Zoom. A digital minister is a pastor who uses Zoom to cultivate community and offer pastoral care. A digital minister is not the church's social media manager. A digital minister is a pastor who uses social media to build relationships, cultivate community, and offer faith formation and pastoral care on social media. A digital minister is not a church's video producer. A digital minister is a pastor who understands how online content can proclaim the good news of love and justice and preaches, typo, in new ways to cultivate much needed community. A digital minister is not the person who knows the most about technology, social media, and the internet. Digital minister is a pastor who ensures that the church will always share the good news of love and justice by any media necessary. And one more, a digital minister does not manage all the digital things. A digital minister uses digital things for ministry, which means we're all digital ministers because we all use digital things, hopefully, for ministry. All right, that was a lot of over an hour of ranting and rambling. I'll pause for a moment with whatever moments we have remaining. Questions, comments, snide remarks. You are an incredible crowd. I've seen
Thanks
lots
so
of buttons
much.
pop up with chats, but I'll take a breath and see what is popping up in the spaces.
Um, I'm seeing, I think one more question. And people can feel free to add a couple more if you have them. I just want to thank you, Jim. There's so much to mull over. This is why we record, folks, so you can rewatch and share with your community. But I just want to highlight, I mean, a few things is the need to start that work of intentionally bridging on-site and online communities. I love that language because I always struggle with like in person and then yeah, what does that mean? But yeah, so on-site and online and I think a question I get a lot in my work in stewardship is how do we move those, like you were saying, there's this expectation of moving those people watching on YouTube into like coming in person or giving or something. And just to be naming, like I think what I'm hearing you say is first, they may never come is something to just know and know that what you're offering matters, even if that person never shows up in person on site. But also to make sure that we're intentionally creating other spaces for folks, whether it's the coffee hour or a Bible study time or a social time or something. And I think what I took away too is just the real need to explain to people what to expect, which I think we should do with any church things because churches, frankly, if you haven't grown up in it, so weird. Um, you know, like we were in a group today talking about how singing hymns must be so weird if you've never like done that in your life. So how to explain to people like what to expect when they come to a digital coffee hour and it's like, well, most people turn their cameras off and they are talking and we'll have some formal conversation, like whatever. So I just really appreciate all of that and yeah, lots to mull over here. Anything, Greg, you monitoring questions, chat, anything?
We have one about
Stefan?
including people who are joining from outside the country. Stefan does content in French, so people come from Europe or Africa. And there's a sense, how do we convince someone that they belong if like, and I guess I'm just spinning off here that even though we're in a non physical space, we're all in physical space, as you said. And so even if I'm doing something for my community here, it is shaped by the culture of me and the community here. So yeah, how do you like if I was joining your community, how would you let little old me know that I was welcome in New York from Michigan?
I think, and some of that is back to that whole proxemics thing of what kind of belonging does a person need? And sometimes they just need that sense of, I'm not the only one asking these questions. I'm not the only one thinking this way. It's why I've often, especially here in America, in the United States, said that digital ministry is incredibly essential. I think that 2016 gave us this like Trump version 1 of okay, we can't just let this define America. We have to show up for justice in all the ways and spaces we can. 2020 put us online of like, we need to connect with one another. And now Trump 2.0, both of those are equally true. A loneliness epidemic is, everywhere it seems. And I think there's individuals who think in my conservative community, if I'm having a question or a thought, am I the only one? And I think that piece of online content can sometimes be like, I'm not the only one. I'm not everyone around me is actually the ones who are seeing the world upside down, and maybe this is the way to do it. So I think the goal isn't always, and now you're going to join our Zoom call and social hour. It might just be you have a sense of public belonging because you're not alone in the questions you're asking and the way you're holding them. I mean, deconstruction is now a big term that we've probably all seen online. I remember when it was just something Jack Caputo said in philosophy. But I think it's that sense of what do we do when people go through those moments of crisis of faith, and how can they find connection and community in the midst of that? Not just saying you have to believe what we believe, but it's okay to just have questions and uncertainty, and we make room for that too. Not every community does. So I think if you are one, how do you put that out there in ways that lets them know that's okay? How does the queer teen in a conservative town know that they are loved and welcomed because you offer messages that remind them of that? They might never log into your church service, but that one TikTok they saw gave them a sense of connection. That's the one side to it, Stefan. There's a lots more to do, I know. I also want to point out with languages, YouTube is now rolling out auto dubbing in other languages. So your video that you put in one language automatically will be auto dubbed into other languages. So I can record in English, and someone in France can listen to me speaking French, and someone in Spanish, in Mandarin, and the platform is doing that automatically, which I think is frightening and also incredible at the same time.
So I can start making those kung fu movies that I always wanted to make.
There you go. And you can just do it in
Awesome,
English, Nick.
awesome, but with really bad dubbing. Really, yeah. We had a question: how do we do some of this when our congregation is very elderly and scared off by digital approaches?
And I think that same one is in the Q&A. How do you do this without burning out our staff? How big is your team? Yeah, I think you don't do all the things. That's the first rule is you can't do all the things. We all have the same 1,440 minutes in a day. How are you going to use them? So if you try to do all the things, you'll end up doing mostly nothing, or you'll just end up switching from thing to thing to thing. It's why, when I gave that list of here's all the stuff that I'm helping manage at Riverside, that didn't start with that big list. It was slowly adding things and stopping things. We actually have stopped whole giant projects to make room for new ones, because you can't just keep adding things on. We are not machines. We're human beings. So I think part of it is going very slowly. My dad would always say, make haste slowly. And probably much slower than you want to go. So the pace you want to go, you got to cut it in half. And it's like, okay, you might run a 9-minute mile. We got to go at a 15-minute mile or a 20-minute mile so everyone can come along. Because the point isn't how far can we go, how fast can we get there? It's how can we get there together? So being really attuned to the process more than just the product of the destination. So I would say, make people want more. I mentioned earlier, I love doing things in Advent or Lent because it's a way to have an ending in place. And then it lets people go, I want to do that again. You're right. We should do that again. It was really great. Or that was horrible. Whose idea was that? I don't know, but let's never do that again. Like, don't try to do things all the time, all at once, especially with various demographics involved. And again, that's part of avoiding burnout. If you try to do all the things, you're not going to be able to manage it all. At Riverside, I am the only person whose focus is exclusively on digital ministry, which that's a unique luxury too, to have a full-time clergy who this is my area of focus. I try to really recognize, how do I help coach and bring all of our clergy and all of our congregants? We're all digital ministers, so I'm not doing it all. I think of it like this. If you have a social justice ministry at your church, she doesn't go to the protests so you don't have to. She is helping organize your whole community to do justice work. A youth pastor is not the only one who knows the names of teenagers, at least they shouldn't be. They're the one who helps organize the whole church to be an intergenerational community. A digital minister is someone who helps organize the whole congregation to do digital ministry together. So that's probably how I can manage it and not burn out, trying to bring in all these individuals to help do it together.
And I think too, I'm going to say this and then I'm going to take my privilege of closing us. But I, a story I heard recently that was very powerful was about a church trying to build online digital connection and community. And they invited one of their homebound members to be there. Like you named early on the importance of having somebody experience what everybody online is experiencing. And they used their homebound member for that so that he became kind of like he could tell them like, oh, hey, it was hard to hear in this part, or we feel isolated, or so just to know that sometimes the folks that are the most, I think, like least digitally inclined, least technologically inclined in some ways can be a big asset for you because you can learn from them. And if you can teach them, then you know you can work with others and they can help you understand what others are experiencing.
Yeah.
So,
Because I know you're landing the plane, but I just love that point. The purpose, our competition is not NFL football. It's not these big industries who have great live streams and slick productions. We're not competing against that content machine. We're trying to build community and connection. So it's not about how many cameras do you have in your sanctuary and how slick is your online presence. That's the wrong metric to measure. It's how are you deepening community and connection? Are people connecting with people? That's what ministry's always been about, and that's all this digital stuff is all about. Don't get caught up in how many followers you have on whatever platform. It's how many names do you know and stories are connecting. That's the work we've always been called to, but especially in these digital spaces. All right, I'll let you steer us down for a
Well,
landing.
thanks so much, Shim. I mean, we're so grateful for you, and I know that you were doing this over kind of supper bedtime times, and so I know that's a big a big gift to us. And I'm sure folks will have more questions and more thoughts. Please, what we can do is answer them together on the network. So post them online in the discussion forum on the network. And these are all questions I think we can help. And I have seen lots of Jim's videos and things where I could maybe point us in the direction of that. Yeah, we're just so grateful. So much good stuff to think about, especially as we head into a season where folks might be kind of checking us out in a digital way and seeing what our churches are all about. We're going to be really intentional about how we connect with them. So thank you. I'm going to hit stop on the recording, which means it's really officially done.